Hi guys, this is HDE. I thought I'd break the general pattern of review-based content on the channel to do something I've been meaning to try for a while now. If Minecraft isn't your thing and you've found yourself watching this regardless, please don't be alarmed. The totally unoriginal gaming show hasn't gone anywhere, and this hasn't just turned into a Minecraft channel. I'm just using it as window dressing here, because I think Minecraft is sort of pretty to look at. And if you came here for the first time thinking this was a Minecraft channel, well, sorry, I guess. To explain quickly what this video is actually about, I just wanted to do something to address some stuff I saw going down on social media around the end of 2018. It's not something that affected me personally, and I'm not going to get into specifics, but I still feel like it's something I want to weigh in on, because some folks I consider friends were dragged into it, and I like to make sure folks know where I stand on certain issues. I'm fully aware that I'm just one guy yakking about this on the internet, so maybe I'm just howling into the void here, but you never know. Maybe what I have to say on the matter might make a difference to the way somebody thinks about it. Or at least that's what I'm hoping. What I want to talk about here for a few minutes is the matter of gatekeeping within the gaming community. Now, this is something that's come up in conversation a bit on my social media just lately, and that term's been mentioned a few times during the course of it, and I occasionally find that I have to explain what it means. So, for the benefit of folks who may not be familiar with the term, I'll attempt to explain clearly what gatekeeping is and why it's a bad thing. Here's the short version as I see it. Gatekeeping is basically the practice whereby somebody, be they an individual or a group of people, decides that they need to stand between a thing that they enjoy and other folks who also enjoy it. I really don't know a better way to describe it than that. You might have heard the term used before in discussion relating to online fan communities. Maybe you've heard about gatekeeping in the comics scene or gatekeeping in the anime community. But it doesn't have to be a community level thing. It can happen at a much smaller scale as well. And it might be better to use a small scale example by way of explanation as to how gatekeeping works. So allow me to relate a brief personal anecdote of my own experience with it. Years ago, there was a girl I knew who, around the time I'd gotten to know her, met a guy she'd eventually go on to marry. I forget the actual circumstances that led to it, but I remember being invited out to dinner with her family and their friends. As it turned out, this girl's boyfriend and I both played guitar, so we had a fair bit to talk about. And when we got to talking about the kinds of music we enjoyed, we found that we actually had similar tastes. What I vividly remember is that he mentioned he liked the band Marillion. I knew of them because, when I was growing up, one of my stepbrothers used to listen to their records constantly. I actually own a few myself, because they were a band I rediscovered when I got to the age where I was more interested in music. In fact, their album Afraid of Sunlight, to this day, is one of my very favourite records. So, there you go. He had his experience with this band as a fan, and I had my own. You'd think all would be well and good, because we had a common thread of conversation, and it was something all three of us could chat about. And indeed, everything was fine and dandy for the evening. We had a fun time talking about something we were all interested in, we drank our drinks, ate our meal, listened to the band that was playing at the venue, had a nice time, and then went off to our respective homes. But here comes the plot twist. I actually used to work with this girl I knew, and a couple of days later she offered me a lift back from work, which she often used to do. Naturally, we started talking about the night out we'd all had. I told her I'd enjoyed talking to her boyfriend, and then she said to me, "Oh, listen, about that. There's something I wanted to mention to you. My boyfriend enjoyed your company the other night too, but could I ask you please, don't talk to him about Marillion, because they're his band and that's his thing." I was absolutely flabbergasted. Now, I've been on the planet for over 40 years, and in that time, some people have done some remarkably crappy things to me. Certainly bigger, far worse things than this. Even the kind of things that you can press charges and take people to court over. But for whatever reason, this one little thing sticks in my mind as being one of the most breathtakingly unfriendly, petty things that's ever been thrown at me. To be told that I was effectively not allowed to talk to somebody I knew about a band we both liked just struck me as being unbelievably possessive and passively aggressive, not to mention childish. To this day, I can't imagine what the thinking behind that stupid request was, and to be honest, I don't care. I certainly didn't pay any attention to it at the time, that person isn't in my life anymore, and those two aren't even married anymore. Colour me unsurprised. But process what I've just told you for a moment. If your reaction to it is to start thinking about what possible reasons this girl might have had for effectively commanding me not to talk about a specific thing to her boyfriend, please check yourself, because you're already walking down a very slippery slope toward overthinking an issue that really isn't that complex. If, on the other hand, you're thinking how crazy it sounds and wondering what right she had to make such an unreasonable demand, then good for you, because I've just presented you with a blatant example of gatekeeping, and you're already halfway toward understanding what a stupid, childish, deeply unfriendly thing it is. I've already described gatekeeping as the practice of standing between somebody and something they enjoy, but perhaps a more on-the-nose way to describe it is to say that it essentially boils down to this: one person openly telling another that they're not good enough to like the same things that they do. And there is no way to spin that in a positive light. It's a scumbag move. Where the gaming community is concerned, I occasionally see situations blow up that feel maybe not as overtly ridiculous as that experience I had years ago, but not too dissimilar either. I'm very fortunate that, in my time talking about video games on the internet, I've befriended a bunch of decent, welcoming, friendly people. But I do see instances where other folks have apparently decided that gaming is just for them and those who think as they do, to the exclusion of people they've decided they dislike. I have literally seen the ideas expressed in as many words that video games are not for women, not for kids, and not for those who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or non-binary. And that hurts my head, because the instant anybody starts to define who something isn't for, they're effectively, by extension, inferring the right of ownership of that thing to somebody else, usually themselves, and no good ever comes of that. I think it's very easy when you find something that you really enjoy to start thinking of it in terms of being yours, and to become maybe possessive of it. It's even easy for us to project that kind of thinking onto other people. If you think about the people you know in your life, you probably know someone who has a huge thing for one particular TV show, a movie, comic book or whatever, and they might give enough of their time and disposable income over to it that it's easy as a bystander to look at them and say, oh yeah, that's the Sonic the Hedgehog guy, or yeah, that's the dude who's into Power Rangers. It may be such a keystone in their lives that they're defined by it to some extent. The thing is, from my point of view, that's actually pretty normal human behaviour. It's the rare individual among us who doesn't have something in their life that has special meaning. And that thing could be anything. It doesn't have to be video games, movies, toys, comics, shoes, stamps or whatever. It could be something less tangibly defined, like eating out regularly, going to the gym, heading out for a drink every Saturday night, or going to church. What we do well to remember, whatever it is that we indulge ourselves in, is that it's almost certainly not something that was ever conceived for us to enjoy in isolation, to the exclusion of anyone else, or at the cost of anyone else's happiness. Video games are designed to be played and enjoyed by everybody, and not by accident either. At a commercial level, the industry that pumps them out has to be all-inclusive, because, as cynical as this might sound, even if individuals working in that industry might harbour certain prejudices, as far as the people they answer to are concerned, everybody's money is of equal value. Guess what that means? If you think women, lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgender individuals, or even sentient cups of tea from another dimension have no place in gaming, you've picked the wrong hobby. Because as long as those folks have money they're happy to plough into the industry will give them something back. The things it makes are as much for them as they are for you. As isolated individuals who enjoy these products, none of us are special, and at the same time, all of us are. We all have our own set of experiences, our own personal history with gaming or certain particular games, and nobody stands specially placed to take any of that away from us. We don't get to dictate who else should enjoy these things, or decide if the way they enjoy them is somehow inferior to the way we do. There is no way to play video games in such a way that makes you a better person than somebody else, and the second somebody starts standing on boxes and waving their hands in the air to say anything different, well, to be honest, they look like a complete fool. Like anything else in life, playing video games as a pastime is something that might be fun to indulge in by yourself, but takes on another dimension when you share it with other people. Human nature being what it is, I think there'll always be a dysfunctional element that wants to creep in and start sabotaging people's fun. And I've got to say, I don't get that. It baffles me why anybody who enjoys something would see other folks enjoying the same thing as an even remotely negative thing. Yet it happens, and it's absurd. Speaking for myself, when I see other folks on the internet, on YouTube, Twitter or whatever talking about video games, the last thing that enters my mind is that they might be the enemy or a threat to me somehow. I don't think for one instant that they're ruining my games by existing or talking about them, and I don't understand why some people seem to take that attitude. If other folks are interested in the same thing that I'm getting entertainment from, I think that's great, and I'm interested in hearing what their perspective is and what their experiences are. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of people who post ideas and statements about gaming that I personally don't care for. And no, not everyone is nice. That's just how things roll, unfortunately. But during the course of 2018, when I relaunched this channel and started posting gaming content, I've made a good number of new, genuine friends as a result of using social media. I'm happier for it. I would even say that I'm a slightly different person with a slightly different outlook today as a result. And all I had to do to get here was just, not be an obnoxious jerk to the folks I was brought into contact with. It really wasn't hard, and I'm nobody special, so if I can manage the feat of arriving as a newcomer in this community and getting along with everyone, I'm pretty sure anyone else can, even if it takes a bit of effort.